Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome or welcome back. I wanted to do another discussion today. A little while ago, I was at the local children's bookstore that I talk about often that I enjoy, and I was talking to the owner, and she uh, had mentioned how um, children actually enjoy uh, reading and learning and asking about the harder topics. So I wanted to do a discussion on what children should read or how so many people are trying to censor what they read because they don't think that they're ready for them yet. And I think a lot of the time it's the parents aren't ready to discuss those things with the children yet, rather than the children being ready or willing to hear about it. So I have a couple of books that I have that I really enjoyed that do talk about some of the harder topics. But the woman at the store had said that they ask about World War II, World War One, so the wars, September 11, and just some of the stuff that they're curious and they want to know. And I remember I wanted to learn everything as a child, and the more people tried to dissuade you from learning about it, the more that I wanted to know about it. And so I can imagine children are that way as well. And it's not like they don't have uh, already experience with bad things in their lives. They've lost family members. People have died. They know about uh, the realness of life. They've been discriminated against. They've been treated badly. They're hungry. They're unhoused. Children go through just as much as all of us, and they, just like all of us, want to read something that allows them to process those feelings that they're feeling, or to allow them to see themselves, or just the curiousness of trying to understand and see other people. And so, anyway, I just had this thought and this idea that maybe I would like to hear your thoughts and concerns and opinions on this matter. But in the meantime, I do have a few books that I wanted to recommend and enjoy, or that I enjoyed. So this is Unspeakable: The Tulsa Race Massacre, and this is by Carol Boston Weatherford, and drawn by Floyd Cooper. And so what's really interesting about this is, so first of all, the art is fantastic. So on the first, like the cover page type of thing, they show what Tulsa would have looked like, and this was called Black Wall Street. It was a very wealthy area for African Americans. And then this is photographs of the damage after. So that right there says a lot more than the words ever could. But so I'm just going to read the flap here. So in the early 1900s, Tulsa, Oklahoma was home to a thriving African American community. The Greenwood District had its own schools, systems, libraries, churches, restaurants, post office, movie theaters, and more. But all that would change in the course of two terrible, unspeakable days. On May 31st and June 1st in 1921, a mob of armed white Tulsans attacked Greenwood. They looted homes and businesses and burned them to the ground as black families fled. The police did nothing to protect Greenwood, and as many as 300 African Americans were killed. More than 8,000 were left homeless. News of the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the worst incidents of racial violence in U.S. history, was largely suppressed, and no official investigation occurred for over 25 years. And then it says celebrated author Carol Boston Weatherford and acclaimed illustrator Floyd Cooper provide a sensitive and powerful introduction to the Tulsa Race Massacre, helping young readers understand the events of the past so we can move toward a better future for all. So they called it at the time a race riot. Having it called a riot made the insurance companies not have to pay for the damages done to the Black homes and businesses, which is a really important part of the story. But anyway, it says some really, like I said, it has some fantastic art. It gives a really interesting life prior to. So there were 2 movie theaters and 6 privately owned airplanes within the area. So it was a very, very affluent and wealthy community. And the white people at the time did not appreciate the Black wealth. They had all come here to Oklahoma because of the oil that was found there, and they all were hoping to live the American dream. So there was the Bloody Summer of 1919. It is discussed in here as well, but it talks about how after World War I, the Black soldiers who fought and died for our country, those who lived, came back thinking that they would finally have rights here within their own country. And of course they did not. So it had a lot of tension spreading over, which then escalated into all these outbreaks and this violence in 1919. And it continued on till, this happened in 1921. And then this is kind of like the precursor to the civil rights movement and stuff that happened after World War II, when once again the African American soldiers came back and demanded rights because they were treated better having gone fought in the war and with other units, foreign units, and seeing what it was like to be treated equally and better than at home. So it added to their knowledge that they deserved better and needed to fight for it. So the fact that they have a book like this is absolutely phenomenal, and I think it did a very good job. And as it said, it was very sensitive in doing so. Another one that I spoke about recently was The Bicycle, how an act of kindness changed a young refugee's life. And so this talks about what it was like to be a refugee. And once again, this is written by somebody who had survived from town to town, and discrimination that she had faced with her family as they left from country to country until she ended up in the Netherlands with looking out the window and seeing a lot of people riding bikes and living lives that should have been normal, but for her were not, and she did not know how to feel included or participate until the kind landlord gifted her with a bike, and she could be just one of them. And so great stories like this are really important for children to understand empathy, but also to know that there are some events that lead people into having to flee their homes, and the insecurity and the feeling of being unsafe as they travel and try to find a different home. And good thing about each of these books is, so after you get the whole story, they all end with the author's note of why they wrote it, especially since this one was written by the refugee who is telling the story. So she got to be reunited with the kind stranger who gifted her a bike. years and years later. With the Tulsa one, it talks about in here why the author and the illustrator both wrote about this, and their personal stories that are similar, the family histories and stuff that they heard about this kind of racism. And in Tulsa now, there is a park monument dedicated to this massacre. And so this tower here is basically a recreation of a lot of the photographs that were taken of the damage done and of the people fleeing and all that stuff, and created into a statue that can withstand time and share their story. Another one that I have is Carry On, and this is poetry by young immigrants. So this was in Canada, and immigrants from all over the world were asked about their experience, and so they wrote a poem about their personal experiences, and then there's an illustrator who drew or painted pictures of a bunch of the different children. And so it's really cool to have this view from people all around the world who all came to one place and tried to find a new home. And what's really interesting, once again, is where it talks at the end about what the story is, and the inspiration for the story. The painter, so they did a documentary series about all the immigrants and the refugees and stuff. And so they challenged their beliefs and said, you are no longer 40% this and 60% that, or 30% this and 70% that. You are 100% Quebecese and 100% the other. So your identity has been multiplied and not divided, which when the kids realized that they were not lesser, that they were actually something greater now, having two full identities, that is the moment that the author or the illustrator captured when she wrote, painted these pictures, that moment that they realized that they are enough. And how beautiful is that, and how important is that for children. And then the last one that I have is Lou Jane, Dreams of Sunflowers, a story illustrated or inspired by Lou Jane El Hathloul. And this was written by her sister, as well as Uma Mishra Newberry, and illustrated by Rebecca Green. And this is a Saudi Arabian story. They use the idea that girls cannot fly, but boys can. And so it's essentially, the boys and fathers have wings, they can explore, they have this freedom and individuality that the girls do not have. And this young girl just really wants to be able to fly too, because her dad always tells her about these wildflowers that he sees on his flights that you can't get to anywhere else except by flying. And so she'll never be able to see them. So she has to fight for her right to be able to fly just like anybody else. And what the story's actually talking about is, so Lou Jane was imprisoned for her fight in Saudi Arabia to be able to drive when women there were not allowed to drive. And so it tells the story of something greater by getting children to understand it on a more simple level and seeing the unfairness of it. And once again, on the back, you get the note from the sister talking about how influential and brave her big sister was. and a picture of the real Lou Jane as she continues to fight for women's rights in Saudi Arabia. So these are all books that are for children, but have deeper themes. And what's really great about having it in this kind of way is that it gives the parents, the teachers, the aunts like me, anyone, the opportunity to delve into those curious minds and offer them a chance to start this dialogue in case they have any questions. They can ask, well, why weren't girls able to fly? They can ask about each country. So in here, you're reading, and this one's from South Korea, and this one's from Iran, and this one's from Moldova. And then you can get out the map and show them where in the world these places are so they can learn and experience. For the unspeakable, you get to talk about how racism is still present in America. You get to talk about the importance of coming to terms with our past, as hard as it is, and showing that there is a way forward by talking about it and acknowledging it rather than hiding it and suppressing it. And then you get to talk about how kindness matters and how the different things that people go through that are different from yours, but that you can still understand as being scary or sad. And it gives you the words to use and the pictures to show in case you don't know how to say it yourself. And for a lot of this stuff, you learn right along with them, because it might not have been things that you learned about in school or experienced yourself. And it's always fun to learn, and you can learn from children's books. And it's just however you choose to read, however you choose to explore the world is important to have children included in that discussion about what's important and how reading is important. And I have always had a love for reading because I was given books, but if I had books like this when I was in school, I would have devoured them. I would have sought out more like them. And I'm so glad that there are opportunities like that. And I feel like we shouldn't shelter our children. We should give them the tools to understand the world that they're living in. Anyway, that's my thought on the thing. And I just kind of wanted not only to have that discussion about what they should read, what they shouldn't read, what they're ready for. If they're asking you about it, they're ready for it. And just to highlight some of my favorite children's books and some in-depth things that you can learn from them if you never thought to read a children's book as an adult before. Anyway, I also don't have it here, but one of my favorites is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, and that's essentially a really cute, inspirational story of friendship, and it has a lot of the same themes that if you're familiar with the child stories, Winnie the Pooh, very similar to that, just about friendship, about self-worth, about love and empathy and understanding. But anyway, I would love to hear if you have any book suggestions like this, or just your thoughts on this in general. Thank you. As always, happy reading.